Welcome to another episode of the Bread and Bars podcast, where we are breaking bread and we're spitting bars, where we have dope conversations, sometimes with dope people. Today, it's just me. And we're going to get into an amazing topic that I think was very impactful in my overall transformation. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody that subscribed, that liked, that watched my videos on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis, depending on when I upload it. I want to tell each and every one of y'all thank you. I appreciate you, and shout out to each and every one of y'all. There's multiple. I'll spend my entire time thanking the people that's watching. So appreciate you. So today we're going to talk about the power. We're going to talk about a superpower that I like to call detachment outcome. Detachment outcome. Detachment outcome is when you release your feelings or your emotions or your intense thought about a specific outcome that you want to happen. Whatever area of your life you want it to come from, whether it be your career, your relationship, embarking in new activities, whatever it is, most of the times we have a particular idea of what we want to happen. And if it doesn't happen that way, we have so much of an attachment to that outcome that leads to depression, that leads to sickness, that leads to a certain level of anxiety, right? And I'm sure we've all experienced each and every one of those things. A high level of stress comes with it, right? When we go to our jobs and our job isn't giving us what we wanted to give it for today, right? We may not have the best day at work. So what happened is we get bogged down with this sadness and this discontent with where we are in life, right? It's hard to be grateful or show gratefulness when we're attached to certain outcomes that haven't necessarily came to pass yet. Now, this does affect multiple areas of our lives. I've experienced it in a myriad of areas of my life, whether it be relationships. Oh man, don't let me get started on that. I will. Careers, entrepreneurial journeys that I've taken, um, money situations, whatever the case may be. I've always had a particular idea, and I thought it was just me being positive. Hey, I'm gonna have positive thoughts. This is what I want. This is what I want to do. And as long as I have that passion for something, then things will go well. And sometimes they did go well. Other times they didn't. Most times they did. So what happened was that led me, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, led me to feel as if I was a failure because I didn't get a specific outcome that I thought immensely about, that I thought I should get, right? I started to should all over myself because I should have this. I deserve XYZ thing. So what happened is once I came across, now I knew subconsciously, I knew what the law of detachment was, right? But consciously, I didn't know how to execute it, right? So once I actually start to think about it more and more often, I realized there's a certain state that you get into where you're at a Zen state or you're at a homeostasis state where you're not worried, you're not bogged down by anything, you're relaxed, right? Probably right before you go to sleep or right if you get the chance to go to sleep, right? Because sometimes when we're stressed, we can't sleep. When we're worried, we can't sleep. When we're hurting, we can't sleep. And all of these things happen as a result of detachment to a specific outcome. I remember when I started, oh wow, this is amazing. I started doing graphic design years and years and years, like a little over almost 20 years, more than 2 years ago, 20 years ago. I started doing graphic design, and I started doing it because I was in a place where I just got divorced, and I was living with my mother, and I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to interact with anybody. So what happened was I got turned on to graphic design, and I started getting into it, right? I got the program, I got Photoshop, and I started playing with it a little bit. And I was like, hey, I can make some things work here. Oh, this looks like a flyer that I seen. So I got all the feelings that came along with it, right? So then I was in the church at the time. So I went to the pastor of my church at the time, and I'm like, hey, look, this is what I could do. Check this out. This is kind of cool, right? And they're like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. We can use this, right? And I thought I was doing okay. And then watch this. I'm gonna cut to the story, right? So what happened was I started doing it, and I thought I was pretty good because I didn't have anything to compare myself to. It was really just my imagination. And then I started seeing flyers around town, and I started to notice a trend. Right, I look on the bottom, like I'm looking at the flyer for details. I'm like, man, this flyer is awesome. This is awesome, right? Then I noticed at the bottom something about Aubrey Grant, right? I'm like, okay, who is this Aubrey Grant person, right? And I started to see more and more of these flyers. I'm like, who is this dude, Aubrey Grant, right? And low key, I started to hate on him, right? I'm like, he ain't that much better than me, right? He's probably went to school for this and all this other stuff, right? So, um, years down the line, um, I hadn't been doing the graphics the way the pastor of my church wanted me to do. So lo and behold, they actually got a hold of this Aubrey Grant person, right? And they asked him to do a flyer, and I was like, "Ah, of all things, where did this come from, right?" So I got the idea that um, instead of hating on him, right, or trying to compete with this ghost of a person, why don't I reach out to him, right? So I reached out to him, and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember. I said, listen, I'm a graphic designer. I see you've been doing this for quite some time. Would you be able to teach me? Right? He was like, sure, no problem. Well, send me some of your work. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm thinking, all right, he's gonna think this is good, right? He's gonna tweak it. I sent him some stuff. He was like, yo, bro, this is trash. I was like, what? Right? So the idea at the time, I was like, yo, we just gonna collaborate. We're gonna be cool, whatever. He was like, yo, bro, this is trash. I was like, okay. I think he sent it to me an email. I was like, this isn't good, right? I don't know if he said this is trash. He might have, but he just said it wasn't up to par, right? So what came of that was I started to come up under him as somebody that would be like an apprentice, so to speak. He would teach me tricks and tips here and there, and it took my skill level from here to here. Now, when I started, I thought I was just going to be as good as the person who showed me how to do it, which wasn't a graphic designer or anything like that. It was actually my little sister who was just dibbling and dabbling with it. Um, and, I thought that's about as good as I can get, like making posters or whatever. But then this experience showed me something altogether different. And I spent some time with him in his office, and I was there every day like an apprentice for a short period of time. It wasn't long. It was maybe like 2 or 3 months, 4 or 5 months, maybe something like that. But I learned a lot in that short period of time, and him and I actually became friends, right? And to this day, he's somebody that I respect, and I believe that the respect is mutual. Um, and even while I was there, he was like, "Hey, why are you playing it small?" And this. Like, I did not expect that at all. Um, which is why I'm glad that I actually found myself detaching from a specific outcome so that things can happen the way they're supposed to happen. Now, if you tell somebody that's going through a hard time that everything happens the way they're supposed to happen, the song K Sarah, Sarah, whatever will be. I found that if you tell people that when they're in their high state of stress or high emotions, that they'll get frustrated because it's really hard to tell somebody that they don't have control over a particular situation, or that the situation is happening by itself on its own. You have to learn to detach yourself from that particular outcome. And I'm like, oh, but no, I want this and I want that. Yeah, that's fine to have intentions. There's nothing wrong with having intentions about a certain thing. The issue is when we have an attachment to that intention having a specific outcome. We find ourselves being in too much control over the situation that we really don't have any control over. You know how many times people stress out and get anxiety and trip over things that they don't have any control over whatsoever. Whether somebody loves you or somebody respects you or the guy or the girl that you want to talk to give you or don't give you the attention that you want. You know how many times, and we talk about relationships, I said we'll get into it. I spent a lot of my teenage years, a lot of my adult years in this state of limerence where I would meet somebody and I would think that, oh, this person, if I write poems to this person or if I write love songs to this person, then they're going to react in a way that I want them to. Very rarely has it ever happened. Very rarely has it ever happened. You ever wonder why it's not until you are, let's say, for example, if you're looking for a job, right? Um, and you're looking, you can't find one, you can't get a call back until you finally get a call back from somebody. And then all of a sudden you start a new job. Then all of a sudden, all these other companies are calling you back now. Hey, you're still looking for work? Hey, we're looking for people like you. And even when it comes to relationships, right? When you're lonely and you're in your dry spell, so to speak, right? You're trying to reach out to people and the connection just ain't there. And then all of a sudden, as soon as you get in a relationship with the love of your life or whoever you feel most connected to at the moment, then all the people come out of the woodworks and say, "Hey, I saw this and or I saw you on your profile online, or remember we met at the club, or remember we met at the grocery store, whatever the case may be." They come back around and it's like, where were you when I didn't have anybody, or where were you when I really needed it? Right. One of the main things that I've learned, or one of the main places where I've learned the law of detachment from an outcome is in my trading pursuit. Right. When I first started trading, once I found out that there are people literally making thousands, 10,000s, even hundreds of thousands of dollars a day. Maybe not every day, but if they can just do that in within a 24-hour time period, trading for me became all about the money. Nothing more but making money. Yeah, I gotta hit the buy or the sell or whatever the case may be, and use stop losses and risk management and all that other stuff. I hear that, but that's going all the way in the back of my head because I'm thinking I gotta do whatever I gotta do to get that money. You're telling me I can turn $50 into $1 million, or $100,000, or $5,000 into $100,000. I can actually do that. So the term of trying to make $1 out of 15 cents is legit, and we just compound that thing. And once I learned about how compounding worked, I'm like, this is the vehicle that I can use to compound my money. Oh, I'm all in. We're doing this. But it was all about the money. I want to say probably for the first year or so, right? And for the first year, I think I made $25 and I lost it. The second year, I didn't make any money. Third year, I made a little bit of money. Fourth year, I made a little bit of money. And here I am in the fifth year, right? Going on the sixth. Now, it's not so much about the money because I put the work in. I put the work in so that when I do start to get on the chart or whatever the case may be, because I put the work in, the only outcome that I am attached to is the process. Now that is the cheat code to outcome detachment, is falling in love with the process. One of my favorite motivational speakers is Eric Thomas. If you haven't heard of him, you got to look up Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher, is what he goes by on YouTube. But one of the things he said was, can't nobody stop you from the practice that you put in. I'm paraphrasing. And what he's basically saying is, you may not be able to control the outcome of the game that you're playing. You may not be able to control the relationship or the job or the entrepreneurial ventures or the deal, the real estate deal that you want to close. You can't control the outcome of that because it relies solely on or mostly on other people. But what you can control and nobody else can take away from you is the process. How much time you put into practice, can't nobody control that but you. How much time you put into yourself, can't nobody control that but you. Your education that you acquire about a particular situation, can't nobody control that but you. So what happens is when you fall in love with the process, that's all that really matters to you. Like Kobe Bryant had this Mamba mentality. The reason why he was so confident. Now I'm not going to get into the GOAT conversation, who's the greatest of all times, right? Michael Jordan. But you one thing you can't take away from that Mamba mentality or that Kobe Bryant way of thinking about things is he practiced 4 times a day. He did 2 hour practices 4 times a day. He put up like 50,000 shots, I think it was, a day, right? I think he had to make a certain amount of shots, not just put up shots, but he had to make a certain amount of shots. So that way, when he came to game time, when it came to whatever move he was doing, he did it with so much confidence because he did it at least 1,000 times in practice before the game. Between last game and this game, he's done that move at least 1,000 times, right? So he literally played that same game probably a few hundred times before he got there, right? So although he wanted to win the game, naturally that was his intention, right? Again, there's nothing wrong with having intentions, but what happens is when we have a particular outcome of how it should go, it all falls apart. Most things fall apart, right? Or we hold on so tight to having this outcome that it really can't flow like it's supposed to, right? When I talk about when I was younger, I used to always say I want to make $1 million. I want to, everybody had that dream. They want to make $1 billion. We live in a capitalist society, so yes, everybody want to make a lot of money, right? But I never knew how to do it, and most people don't know how to do it, right? At first I thought I was going to be an archaeologist, right? But then I thought I was going to be a computer scientist. Then I wanted to be a graphic designer. Then I wanted to be a real estate agent. I had all of these ideas. Now, thankfully, I was able to grow through them. The reason why I say that is because I didn't grow past it. It's not like I don't. I think those things are beneath me, but I grew past it. There was another route for me, right? None of those ever came to the point where, okay, one day, Sean, you're going to be a day trader and you're going to be trading the gold markets and you're going to make a certain amount of money per day, right? None of that has ever crossed my mind when I was younger. But what if I said, you know what, I'm going to stay with this graphic design thing. I'm going to stay with it and I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to stay with it. Now, the one thing I do know about that in any other industry is it's up, it's down. It's up, it's down. So even though I have an aspiration or I have intentions of making a decent amount of money every day, that's not going to happen every day. And I'm learning now to be okay with that, right? Because the only thing I can do is work on the process. And that has to be enough to be so in love with the process that the process itself is fulfilling. When it comes to relationships, yeah, I want to be able to buy roses or write a poem and it gets a certain reaction from the person that I'm writing it to, right? Or, if you're in a dating world, you go out, you spend a certain amount of money on a date, you carry yourself a certain way in a date. You might have a certain expectation either at the end of the date, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, or at the end of the year. You have certain expectations or outcomes that you're attached to. And when they don't pan out, what happens? You get upset, you get frustrated, you're like, that person is trash, and or you might internalize it like, oh, I'm not lovable, nobody cares about me. But the cheat code to that is the process. If you take time, now this is going back to my previous video, if you take the time and you learn to internalize that love, internalize that self-worth, internalize that journey that you take of being a better version of yourself, that's the process that you fall in love with. You literally fall in love with that process. And the reason why it's important to fall in love with that process, because that's something nobody can take from you. Nobody can take from you if you decided to read a book. If you set a practice each and every day that you're going to read 50 pages of a particular book of a certain genre or a certain subject, you're going to read a certain amount every single day, 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 1 hour a day, whatever it is, 30-minute days, right? And you start to become a master of that thing. It does not matter what anybody says to you. They can't take away the work that you put in at all, right? Now, to recent day, one of the best examples that I have for outcome detachment is me starting this podcast. Slowly but surely, I explained to you guys how this podcast came to play, and this is one of the biggest things to me right now. Naturally, I would see the Joe Rogans, I would see the Diary of a CEOs, I would see the Here's the Things, I would see the Val and Kadeem um, podcast. I would see these podcasts, and I would see they would get thousands of views every day. There was a guy I saw had a podcast that he probably did a few hundred episodes, 200 or 300 episodes over years. And I listened to his podcast, and it was like pure rubbish coming out of his mouth. But yet he had an engagement. Somehow he had people in a live and they were engaging. And I was like, I didn't necessarily want what he had, but I did see those other podcasts, and I'm like, man, that kind of engagement would be great, right? If I had that many people listening to something that I had to say, that would be amazing. So yeah, those are my intentions. But I had to come to the point where I get a chance to release this information, or I get to discuss things that are impactful to me, that are important to me, right? I get to have a flow of what inspiration or what understanding I get to flow. And I said this, I think, in one of my first podcasts. I appreciate I greatly appreciate the interactions and the engagements, the comments, the likes, the shares, and all that other stuff. I greatly appreciate that. However, I'm not attached to that particular outcome, because if you look at some of my videos have 2 or 3 views. Some of them have 35 or 50 views, right? Some of them may have 100, some of them may have 1,000, some may have none over time. But what helps is I'm not attached to that particular outcome, because then what happens is I now begin to tailor my message to different variations, right? So then it's not so consistent. I'm like, well, maybe, okay, the bread and bars of me talking about transformative aspects of life isn't working. So maybe I should try to be funny. Then I get up there and I try to be a comedian. Yuck. Hey guys, and this is a joke. And but then I don't get the laughter that I want. Then I'm like, all right, well, how do I switch it? What do you guys want me to do? Right. And I start to switch it. And then now I got all these different outcomes, all these different, and now it's not even authentically mine anymore. And I find myself in a position where I'm doing something as like I'm forced to do it. I'm not being real authentic in what I'm bringing to the audience. And that's one of the things that I vow to do. And again, that's not even for just for you guys, but that's for me, right? That's for me to be the most authentic person that I've ever been in my entire life. That's my goal here. Not necessarily to get thousands or hundreds of millions of views, right? I'm not attached to that outcome. The only thing I am attached to is being authentic, which is something that I do within myself. There's a process that I am learning to love. That process of being authentic, that process of bringing you guys something that's real and from the heart. Sometimes you'll see I have notes. Today I don't have notes, but the reason why I have notes is because I want to get certain points across, and I get excited about what I talk about, so I might miss it every so often. And that's okay, right? I'm not a guru by no means. I'm not an expert in this. This is just my first year, 2025. I'm starting this. Right. Well, I've done a video long time ago, many moons ago, but it wasn't necessarily podcast. But I had that passion, I had that desire to express. Right. So that's where we're here now. So again, I wanted to. This is probably one of the shorter episodes after we edit it and everything. But I want if you any chance you get, I want you to take the time to read up on the law of detachment, or the universal laws. Look up the universal laws. The law of detachment is one of them. They're very powerful. We might even do a series of universal laws if I feel led to do so. Um, and this is something that you can think about. There's a song by Frank Sinatra. Case, I think it's Frank Sinatra that sings that. Case Sarah, Sarah, whatever will be, right? And even in our most stressful state, we got to remember that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't happen. There's a reason why it happened that way. You can't change it, right? Once it happened, you can't change it. It already happened. So the only thing left to do at that point is to accept it. Accept it as is. This thing happened, right? But that doesn't stop. That shouldn't stop you from having your intention. Whether it comes to relationships, whether it becomes to maybe you want to start a podcast or you want to do a YouTube, right? Um, Whatever it is, there's a wisdom that says don't look at the people's faces. Don't pay attention to the people's faces. There's a powerful quote that I heard. And I think I might have quoted it once here before. You can't change a generation if you're so worried about the generation's judgment or how the generation feels about you. You can't really be your most authentic and impactful self unless you're actually in a state of flow, unless you're actually able to receive information, let it circle around and engulf your heart, and then speak it to the masses or distribute it however you were assigned to distribute it. Right? That's powerful right there. Right? That's when you are the most authentic self. That's when you are aligned with your divine assignment. Right. And I'm not trying to get too spiritual on you, but at the same time, I am spirit having a human experience. Right. So I can't help it. But when you are able to receive in whatever area of life that you're in, whatever it is that you feel like you're called to do or you're intended to do, you have to be able to receive. Let whatever it is you receive engulf your heart so then you can deliver it. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Right. I like to use the term dharma, right? It's associated with and I think it's associated with I think it's the Hindu school of thought where it is your life's work. It is what you are intended to do here on this earth. And you put everything you have into that thing, and there's nothing else worth your time, effort, or intent. But that thing which you feel you are purposed to do, and I will go this far to say it's something that you are excited about. So it's not something that you're forced to do, but it's something that you're actually excited to do. Too many times in society, we're told we're not supposed to love the thing that we do. But then at the same time, the polarity of that is we're told to, once we love what we do, we never work another day of our lives. And I really do believe that. When we love what we do, we never have to work another day in our lives because we're just doing it out of love, right? We're doing it out of an intent. And I think part of the reason why is because we don't have a specific outcome that we're attached to because we love the process so much. Whatever that thing is, we love the process so much. I love playing basketball, right? I just recently bought a new basketball. I haven't played in a long time, but I recently bought a new basketball. And although it hurt me the first time I went out to play, I love the process and I don't think I would ever stop. I've been hurt plenty of times playing basketball, right? I've sweated, I've sprained my ankle, I've dislocated my elbow. I've dislocated my elbow, sprained my ankle hundreds of times, literally hundreds of times. But because it's something that I love, I'm never going to not want to do it. Right. I just have to make the time to do it. But anyway, I'm rambling. So I want you guys to, if you get anything from this video today, I want you guys to understand that to remain in a state of flow where you're pretty much untouchable, right? Nobody can say anything to you. Nobody can really mess with you in any area of your life because you aren't attached to a specific outcome. People will attempt to judge you because they have a specific outcome for themselves that they're trying to acquire, and maybe they might have gotten there, right? Somehow, by some fluke, they might have gotten there, right? And they also have a specific outcome for what you're supposed to be and or have. So there'll be a lot of judgment. But if I can have your ear and I can encourage you for a moment, I would say to you, as long as you stay on the path, you begin to love the process of studying, of working out, of studying some more, of writing things down, whatever it is that you're doing, continue to do it. And listen, you're untouchable, right? You are literally detached from that outcome. Now, let me throw the human aspect in there. We are not perfect. There are moments where we will get frustrated with the fact that we've been trying a thing for years, for months, and yet it's not where we want it to be. Whether it be relationships. I've known people that's been single for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, some longer than that, and they're watching people get in relationships like instantly, right? Like, how does this person get to find the love of their life? And I've been struggling here for years, even decades, to find somebody to love me like that, right? So again, we'll get frustrated. Like I said to you before, if you tell somebody in a high stressful state that, hey, everything happens the way it's supposed to happen, they'll pretty much want to knock your head off because, like, no, this is you don't understand. I've been struggling with this for a very long time. I understand. But in truth, everything happens the way it's supposed to happen and how it's supposed to happen and when it's supposed to happen. What you do have control over is your efforts, your practices, your intentions. That's what you have control over. That's what you fall in love with. That's what you continue to excel in, your practice, because all the other stuff will come like nothing, right? Just like how I said, it's not until you're actually in a relationship that you find all these other people start to come your way. Now, what happens if you now are intentional about being in a relationship with yourself, loving yourself, taking yourself out to dinner, taking yourself out to the movies, or buying yourself flowers, or doing your own self-care. All right, we're kind of diving into our previous video, but it is all connected in some way, form, or fashion. So as long as you're continuing to stay that path, love yourself, take care of yourself, or do the work within yourself, right? People can take stuff from out here, out in this world. People can take that from you easily. What they can't take from you is your education. They can't take from you your self-work. They can't take from you your process, right? Imagine you in a gym, you lifting weights every day. You lifting weights. There's nothing nobody can do to take away the muscles that you build from that. Nothing. Not even an injury, right? If you get to the point where you start working out, you start getting little, your chest popping out like you want to, you got the arms going, you got the legs going. Even if you got an injury, that next day, the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks, those muscles still going to be there. They're still going to be the same size, right? Unless you have some other kind of thing going on where you lose muscle, but that's going to take a very long time of you not putting in the work. So not only can nobody take it from you, but it's actually compounded the work that you put in on yourself. Oh, that's powerful. That just came to me. When you when you rely on other things to come to you, they might come, right? You might get lucky. You might have karma coming. That's fine. But when you do the work yourself, those efforts are automatically compounded. They last so much longer and they're so much more impactful. So I encourage you again to do the work internally. Work on the process. Detach yourself from the outcome. Attach yourself to the inner work. Your life will be blessed. You'll become virtually unstoppable. And that's what we want for you here at the Bread and Bars podcast, is for you to be unstoppable, right? Or if I can say this term, unf-wittable, right? If you got to this point of the video, I want you to write that in the comments. unfwitable, unf-wittable, right? That can be you. So thank you guys again for watching. This has been another episode of Bread and Bars podcast. You guys have been great. I appreciate your engagement. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video wherever you share cool things. I'm out. Y'all have a good one.